In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can use learning paths in It's Learning. We're going to start from the student perspective. The student logs into It's Learning and accesses the learning path, which hopefully is linked to your planner. Once they've clicked on the name of the learning path, they're presented with the Start button. At this time, the student's going to review a collection of resources that the teacher has prepared in the order that the teacher would like the student to review them. I'm looking at a page and notice that I have already received a pop-up down here on the bottom left corner that says a new step is available. There's nothing to do on a page other than read or look at any content. You can see that in this particular page, there are embedded videos to watch. The pop-up window has already moved away so that I can't click there anymore, but notice over to the left of the screen that the second step in the path is still available to me. So I'll go ahead and click there. And at this time, I'm going to take a quiz. So I'll click Start Test. And then for time's sake, I'm just going to randomly guess. And then when I'm finished with the last question, I'll click Complete Test. It's important as a teacher that you know that It's Learning can differentiate the student's path depending on how they score on an assessment. So you would want to make sure that all of the questions included were multiple choice, multiple response, either or some other question format that would allow It's Learning to actually score the question for you. Here's the pop-up. It tells me that a new step is available and that I received a 60% on the test. The next step is a link. Sometimes it's best to use a feature such as a note and then put the link into a note so that you can provide additional instructions for the student. In this particular example, I included instructions in the title. So I want the student to go to this Google Doc and do a solar system review with a partner. For time's sake, I'm not going to click there. I'm just going to move on to the next step on the path. This is a note. And it's telling me that I need to watch this video about the seasons. The next step has been released, so I'll go ahead and click. I have some additional videos, and I'm receiving these resources because I did not score very well on the assessment. If I had scored at least 80% on the assessment, I would be able to move on to some additional activities or some enrichment activities. So I've got the instructions for these videos over here on the right-hand side of the screen. It tells me to rewatch as many times as needed, and that I'll be completing a discussion post in the next question that evaluates which video does a better job helping me remember the moon phases. And so then I'll move on to the discussion. Now let's take a look at learning paths from the perspective of the teacher. There are two ways to make a path. And the one that seems the most intuitive is actually the method that I prefer the very least. So we can come to the tree and click Add, or you can simply come to a folder and click the Add button. And then in the middle section under Activities, there is now an option called Learning Paths. Once you click there, it asks you to begin adding your resources. The reason I don't like this path is because you have to add each resource one at a time, and it feels like you don't have a lot of ability to plan your path out ahead of time. I could say I want to add resources from my course, and then I could drill down into a folder and get any resource that I wanted. Unfortunately, when you select a resource from your course, it removes it from this folder and adds it into a new folder for the learning path. Then if you ever delete the learning path, your resources are gone. So I really don't like this feature. So I just want to make sure you know there is a much better way to create a learning path. So the way that I prefer is to create a folder with your resources. So here are my space resources. I'm going to go ahead and open that up so you can see what's inside. I have some pages, some links, I have an assessment, I have an assignment, a note, I have a task, a discussion thread. All in all, quite a few activities there. So once I'm looking everything over, pretty sure I've got it in the order that I would like for it to appear for students in, then I simply make sure, again, that I'm in the right folder, come across to the 3 small dots, and I can say, make this folder a learning path. So once I do that, it turns it into a path. For an activity such as a page, there's no criteria for me to set because you simply read or look at a page. So if viewed, move on. Same thing with a task. If viewed, you can, or the link rather, you can view it and move on. But when we get to a test or assessment, I need to set some criteria. It's going to default you to, if completed, move to the next step, meaning whatever a student scores, they're going to be able to move on. But I can change that by saying if the student scores at least 80%, I would like for that student to skip steps 4 and 5 and move on down to step 6. Perhaps steps 4 and 5 are the remediation because the student did not make 80% and did not meet the standards. So otherwise, just continue right on to step 4 and step 5. So the next step is the student's going to look at another page of information, look at another note of information, and then we're going to have an assignment. If submitted, if the assignment is completed and submitted, move to the next step, meaning no matter what the student submits, they will be able to move on. The teacher has the ability to change it to completed. It's important to know that if you change it to completed, the student must wait on you to look at the assignment before they can move on. You will be in charge of that. But if you leave it at submitted, they will get the next step released to them as soon as they've hit the submit button. Next, we have a discussion, and then we have a task. A task is an interesting feature of its learning. It allows you to take something that the student does outside of its learning. Perhaps they're doing a worksheet in the class or building a model with some materials that you've provided. You can then put that task into its learning and include it in this path. So adding the task allows you to hold students accountable for tasks that they complete outside of its learning. So they'll get a yes or no toggle button. Once they've completed the task, they'll come back to the path and say, yes, I did what I was supposed to do. Next, we have another assessment. Just like before, I'm going to say if student scores at least 80%, they are done. I would like for them to move to the finish. Otherwise, I would like the students to do step 10 in the path. When I'm completely finished adding my criteria, I'll say I want to complete the path, and then I would come up and make it visible for students. Up until the time that students begin completing the path, if no student has logged in and clicked the start button yet, you can always come back here and edit the path. You can also come to the 3 small dots and you can turn your list of resources back into a normal folder again with the click of a button. Once students have begun the path, this is not possible anymore. So I do recommend that you keep a clean copy of all of your folder of resources somewhere else in your course. You could leave it inactive, or your grade level could complete a path together in your grade level collaboration course. and everyone could copy it over to your own conduct or other course, and then you would have that clean copy available to you at all times back in the collaboration course. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy making LearnPaths.